James here, just jumping in ahead of this final episode of Season 1 of Live to Die to say a huge thanks to everyone who's listened along so far. Or if you're just jumping in at the end here, thanks for checking it out, although I do highly recommend going back to Episode 1 because that's a whole serialized story thing. Regardless, I just wanted to say a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart to each and every one of you who've taken the time to listen to any of our episodes. It means a lot to us. We started this little over a year ago now, although we haven't been putting out episodes for a year. It just took us a while to get working on it. And it's been awesome. This whole journey has been wonderful for us. It's been a lot of learning and a little difficult at times. And it's been so much fun to get to spend time with these 4 players at the table and to play this amazing story and this game that we love so much, and to just spend the time together making something that we like, which just feels really wonderful. I do have a favor to ask though, and I asked this last week, so please, allow me to repeat myself. I'll keep it brief. If you have the opportunity, whatever platform you're listening to this on, please take a moment and rate and review the podcast. It makes a world of difference to us and helps other people discover it. It also gives us some feedback, if there's stuff that we can work on. Regardless though, please rate and review us. If you have any questions or comments, reach out to us on social media. All the information is in our show notes. That's the absolute best thing that any one of you could do to help us, and it's what we'd absolutely love to ask any of you to do. If for some reason that still doesn't feel like enough and you are still so excited and want to help more, we would like to let you know that we do now have a Patreon up. There's not really going to be a whole lot of stuff locked behind the Patreon wall. We're going to have some talkback things occasionally and some other small stuff. We'll mention it at the beginning of this episode a little bit, but I wanted to give you that heads up here. The biggest thing you can do is to rate and review us, but if you'd love to do more, we'd love your support in any way you can, and the one way you can do that is going to our Patreon, and that's patreon.com/live-to-die-pod, patreon.com/live, LIVETODIEPOD, live to die pod. And going there is a great chance to support us and help us work on our equipment and our hosting costs. A lot of our players drive up, so gas or lunch is sort of a big deal. This is never going to become a day job for any of us, but maybe we can help defray a little bit of the costs of the time and effort we put into the gear and the recording. Well, I've kept you long enough. Please enjoy this epilogue episode. And if you enjoy this, make sure you tune in next week because we'll begin Season 2, in which we're going to be playing Paizo's Kingmaker Adventure Path. We've got a few episodes recorded, and I can tell you that they are a hoot. So regardless of what you do or don't do, thanks for taking the time to listen to this. Thanks for checking out the episode. You mean so much to us as fans and listeners. Enjoy.
Roll dice, be nice, and stay tuned. This is the Live to Die podcast.
So, just looking back at our predictions, who had wins the fight in 5 rounds?
Not at all.
With no deaths.
I don't think the worm had that.
Yeah, nobody thought that.
The worm definitely didn't have that. I think all of you really fixating on exactly how it mentally invades and then like really digging into that. Because I think there's a whole world in which you're like, okay, yeah, it mentally invades people. Check. I'm sure it's just like a save we make with an ability it activates. Let's use our next usage of this to figure out its weaknesses or like what its special abilities are. But the fact that all of you were like, all right, let's focus intensely on it. And the answer happened to be something that was a little old school D&D. Like that's sort of Tomb of Horrors. Like anyone who looks at themselves in the mirror, sort of like it was a narrative choice. Like there's a die roll if you respond. And I'm upset with myself that I waited this long to hit record because we were just talking about this a moment ago. And Jane was even saying like, oh yeah, I 100% would have told the worm to go like fuck off.
Mm-hmm. Oh, totally. Mm-hmm. And in fact, when we learned that, I was like, have I already done that? Like,
I did that too because I know I talked shit to him, but I didn't know if it was in my head or out loud. Like it made me nervous for a second.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So
There's so many things, honestly, that I think I think just our personalities as players, we like want to know all the info and get all the background. Like we are researchers, I think, at our core. And I think if we hadn't gone about it that way, I feel like the worm prophets would have shown up to this and like effed us up. I feel like we wouldn't have known how, talking back to it basically gives you the potential for being invaded. And we also like maybe wouldn't have known anything about Kenzen if we hadn't passed that first check with Jared rolling. I think he had to get like a 16 or above, right? Like, so there's just
16 or 17, like right on.
Yep.
Yeah, there's just so many ways that like things could have happened that we did not see coming.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. And then you all rolled really well. We were talking about that. And here's what I'll say.
All of us.
Even Jane.
Yeah, you know what? Like, what didn't come up once in that entire fight?
All right. No.
What? Tell us.
But it was good. It was good.
Look,
Yeah,
we all
good.
hope
That's
it's
good.
good. And it was.
We'll have to like go back and listen to what the lowest roll was.
It does say probably not going to be good.
Yeah. So there's a chance.
Well, it was. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. Fuck you, Sherman.
Look, and I'm going to tee this up. I'm going to put it on the recording. So either I'm going to really have to hold myself to this or just edit this out in post. That we're going to go into, I think, a lot more details. We have a Patreon. We haven't really been talking about it because I really wanted to finish this first season of the show before I did. But I think we're gonna take some time and think about how these final episodes went, and we're gonna kind of record us talking about it. We're gonna go way behind the screen on numbers and answering questions about the plot, and we'll put that up on the Patreon. So by the time this episode airs, go check that out. Subscribe. Throw us a $1 or $2 a month if you're feeling saucy and
At Live
flush.
to Die on Patreon.
I think so. I'll put it in the show notes. Check the show notes and our social. So I don't want to spend too much time talking about like the numbers, but yeah, like you rolled well and it wasn't easy. That natural 20 will save from you, Trent. Like we were talking about it. Jared would have required only a natural 20 to even succeed.
Yeah. And the fact that you rolled it, like you rolled to decide who it affected.
Right on the table in front of everyone. And I was like, who's it going to be? Because at this point, like, I think one of its biggest threats was Drosharis. I was like, okay, he's a big threat. He's like a big personality.
That is not what I expected out of this fight. I expected Drosharis to get nerfed a little bit just because it was such a powerful caster and it could move away from him and, it had shit ton of actions when it has time stop. So I kind of expected Drosharis to struggle.
Yeah, you know what was honestly a harder fight? The lesser...
Oh, wow, just dunking on the end of the story, how much it sucks.
Yeah, this wormy shit.
This one went well for us compared to others, that's for sure.
Right.
It did, but I have to say, like, I think the lesser deaths are obviously the one that we all think of like, oh my God, that was so hard. But another one that I thought was really hard and unexpected in a lot of ways was the first Sack Hill that we fought when we first met the Psychopomps, and it had like isolated Dro and Val. Yeah, and it was like everything, like we were all separated. We couldn't see anybody. We couldn't do anything. Like that was a really intense fight also in a way that I thought this would be more like of like spells that kind of throw us off our game more.
I chewed and stabbed that thing to death.
You did.
Well, Jane, you and I just the other night were talking about like tropes we like in movies and film. And we were talking about like the everyone comes together and then kicks ass trope.
Yeah, of course.
Which I think was really kind of fun to see here because you did kind of have that in other boss fights where like the first boss fight into chapter 1, a couple of you were isolated from each other and couldn't work together. End of chapter 2 was the Grey Death and your attention was kind of divided. The building was coming down. There were Grey Gardeners. Had you saved the people who were at the party? Mm-hmm. And so like this is the first time as a boss fight, you kind of all got to do the right stuff, like swagger walk in together.
Yeah, that was cool.
And you even had that.
Just no chance of like splitting damage.
Yeah.
Like there's one creature and we're all just piling on. We're all just piling on at once.
Splitting damage, I think, is the bane of Pathfinder 2nd Edition parties.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Also,
that's how you lose fights.
Is it fair to say that had we not killed them first, the worm prophets would have showed up to this fight?
Oh yeah, the gap between it talking and you shooting was it attempting to magically conjure all of them there.
Yeah.
We'll get more
and
into
it didn't
that.
know that they were dead?
Yeah, this is where like I'll save a lot of this for the more conversation, but it talks a lot about like its worldview and how it sees itself, and it has some emotional blind spots.
Mm-hmm.
So
interesting.
Yeah,
Its father
it has a rough relationship with its father. To be fair, its father, it used to be a bigger worm, and then it got cut in half. So,
Gotcha.
yeah. It sees its whole self as its father, and then it's it and its brother as its current self.
Sure.
Well, let's, I don't want to cut the time we have in half. So let's go ahead and jump. Thank you. Right in to our story where we're at. Drosharis has just cut himself out of the belly of the conqueror worm, strode out. Fox is still technically in its dead body.
I did look up the mechanics to what to do if you die while something's swallowed whole.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's like automatic that the people that are nearby the corpse just pull you out.
Yeah, if you have the time. And we definitely have a few rounds, so...
I slip and slide out of there.
Nice.
You climb your way out the hole that Drosharis cut.
Yeah.
Holy fuck.
You're right.
You're alive.
Am I?
You
are.
look alive.
Oh,
And he like looks at his hands and there's like worm juice and...
sorry, I don't have prestidigitation. You just have to keep that on for a while.
I feel like Val still has her gun out and just like fires a couple shots into the conqueror worm just to make sure.
It twitches a couple times.
Fox is in there.
Let me get rid of this acid rain as well.
I come out and I'm like, what the fuck?
The only damage I took the whole time was Watson's
acid
acid rain.
Is it?
I reach in and pull Fox out.
Ugh, thanks.
Like I imagine I grab the end of your halberd and just...
Is it over?
Val certainly wants to do like a perception or a medicine or something on the worm and make sure it's actually dead.
Okay. I'll do perception on the worm. I've got your perception check over here. Sure. It seems pretty fucking dead.
Can I...
The only thing you don't know is if it may have somehow mentally infected someone between your touch point yesterday and today.
Right.
You know, Kenzin was on that list, but he's a soul in the bone lands right now. So,
Can I detect magic in here?
oh yeah. So
There's a giant pit.
and interestingly
and a bunch
enough,
of flat screen TVs on the east wall.
those are gone. Those of you who are outside of it, the second the worm died, those projections vanished.
Okay.
Yikes. And we could see kind of all the while a gray death rampaging around killing people.
Yes, specifically in the town of Halvin, about 100 plus miles away.
I think Val would say that. She would be like, that's Halvin. That's a town. It's 100 miles from here.
Oh, that really sucks for them.
It's hardcore. Do we go? Can we go? I can't go.
We'd never get there before.
Wouldn't make it in time.
I could try to send a message.
Yeah, you would know that basically anyone who isn't high enough level dies within 24 seconds. They are dead. Anything within 1,000 feet of it dies in 24 seconds.
Can
It's
I roll
smaller
a
than,
society
15th level.
to see if I would know anybody that's nearby there who could do something useful?
I mean, it's already been long enough to have killed the majority of that town.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Sure.
Now, though, if the worm is dead, is that other worm still... If the conquer worm is dead,
Is the gray death
is
still
the gray
alive?
death still out there terrorizing Hawkinsvern or whatever you said?
Give me a religion. Someone can give me a religion check.
I can do that.
Is Huckleberry still out there?
Huckleberry Fairy.
Mm-hmm.
Still rolling hot, guys. Natural 17.
Hey,
What's that total?
Terrible math. 46.
So you'd suspect that the worm's power sort of triggered its release, but the spirits are in there. It's not like it maintained them. That's where they are. They're trapped in those things. So the spirits were released. The ghosts.
Yeah.
There's no reason that they would stop existing.
Yeah. I would say the gardeners have already done their damage. They already trapped all the souls in there that have created this monster. The worm just let it out.
Is there perhaps some group whose aid we could enlist to help get these things out of each of them?
It has to be people just as hardy as we are, at least. The Grey Death will kill anything that comes near it.
There
In a few
are none
seconds.
as hardy as me.
True.
Can we reach your Eagle Knights, Fox?
We just need a fleet of vampires.
Perhaps, but is the city coastal?
No.
Do
Yeah,
I
they're
know
probably not nearby.
anybody that would be around that's a badass?
Not near Halvan. Havlin. I'm double checking. Halvan.
I think the best we can do is try to prevent the others from releasing what's already there.
Oh, I'm so tired.
Unfortunately, I think they are. There's nothing we can do to help them.
I agree with Fox.
So, Trent, your detect magic. Real quick, Jane, I wanted to pull up a little more for you. We don't know a ton about it. Halvan's only a population of about 2,000. It's a large town. I'm checking my Galarian. It's on sort of like mid-northern Galt. Not too far south from the southeast corner of the River Kingdoms, actually. Kind of off on its own. There's not a whole lot to it. It's just north of the Borewood, sort of isolated. Trent, you do pick up a level 19 divination aura. It sort of near one of the statues. See, remember how there's 3 statues where the worm started? One of them was collapsed. Your giant chasm you opened collapsed. The already collapsed statue down into it, and in that rubble, you pick up a level 19 divination aura.
Ooh.
So there's that.
I may even Stormwind. So it's down in the chasm?
Yeah, it
I
fell
may
down.
even like Stormwind flight. Go down there, see if I can figure out what it is. Yeah. Or with Fox as well.
Yeah.
You're gonna flop down with Watson just so he's not on his own.
For the record, if the worm, which I mean, it's a worm, it could probably chase me anyway, but if it came down to all of you getting swallowed by the worm and I was by myself, my plan was to just jump into the chasm and then try to use the Earthglide cloak to just run through the chasm walls.
You may have died. It was 40 feet deep.
Pretty deep. But I was like, at that point, I'd rather do that than get swallowed by the Conqueror
fair
worm.
enough.
In the rubble, you find an ornate crown with an incandescent gemstone set into it. I actually have an image of it. I'm not going to play the song bit, but it looks like this. You want to take a shot at describing that?
Nothing to see down here.
It's a crown, but it's not
Absolutely
like
nothing.
the pointy kind. It's got
Yeah,
like
it's
kind of curves and
swooshy.
waves on the top.
Our historian, talk to us.
Okay. It's definitely got an Art Nouveau type feel. Got curving organic lines. Silver with some sort of like topaz color center stone. And a bunch of smaller blue stones all around it.
Cerulean.
Well done.
Those are
Cerulean.
well done.
Yeah, there's-
This is
Like,
this is
Don't watch
the.
Prada. Nobody gets that.
Nope.
Oh, it's been a while.
Yeah. She says, I got a blue sweater on, and she's like, actually, it's cerulean.
Great movie.
Yeah.
Is it actually? I just remember enjoying it a lot when I saw it.
It is not necessarily a great movie, but it is
Okay.
a good movie.
But it's not, but it is, but it's not.
So
It's
Watson,
complicated.
you pick this up. This is the magical thing.
Cool. He flies back up and he's like, I found his crown.
What the fuck does that do?
I don't know, but it is very high level divination magic.
Shall I put it on? Anybody?
What do we have to
You
lose?
have to take off your little scarf, I
Sure.
think.
No,
Can you take off
slots
that?
are no longer a thing. It's
Yeah,
total
that's right.
invested
Put it on.
items.
Can you take off that
I'll put it
terrifying
on.
bandana?
Yeah, she puts it on.
Watson, it settles down onto your head. You feel its cold metal touch against your balding pate.
And you die instantly.
That has no instant effect.
You're the king of gold.
Look, I have a crown.
But if you do want to try to, figure out some magical shit
Yeah,
on it, yeah. What's your nature bonus?
Nature is 33.
Okay. Yeah, so you actually are able to kind of piece this together a little bit. This is something known as a third eye.
Oh, I have one of those already.
When invested, this ornate crown and its incandescent gemstone meld into your head and take the form of a tattoo. This grants you otherworldly sight and allows you to read auras. No one but you can manipulate the third eye while it's invested by you. Your heightened senses and ability to sense emotional auras grants you a +3 bonus to perception checks.
Whoa, okay.
You continuously see magic auras as a 9th level detect magic spell, except you see the location of all auras within 30 feet, not just the strongest. If you use a seek action to study a creature you can see, you can perceive an aura that conveys knowledge of the creature's health, including all of their conditions and afflictions, and an approximate percentage of its remaining hit points.
So this has already been part of me now?
So you have to invest it.
Oh.
And you can always choose to take it off. And finally, once per day, for 2 actions, you gain the effects of an 8th level true seeing spell.
Ooh.
Wow. He would take it off and give it to Val and be like, I think you could really use this.
Might
He
help
doesn't
with
really
your
tell her what it does. though.
recall
Okay.
knowledge checks.
I'll still kill you.
Not if I kill you
This
first.
will help you see the intentions of people better.
Oh, I love that.
I have to say, I'm really glad none of us died.
I can't believe that none of us
Yeah,
died.
how did that happen?
Yes.
You kind of kicked its ass, I'm not going to lie.
Perhaps
You guys got swallowed.
it was
We did.
our destiny.
I guess it wasn't our day. We better contact you know who.
Perhaps we had some divine intervention.
Perhaps. Although I do think that we should check in on that situation before we consider ourselves fully in victory.
Well, I want to search this room first.
Kind of want
Yes.
to pee on it.
Also,
Do
Watson
that.
wants to pee on it.
Val wants to
He's
reconstruct.
old, so it'll be just like spurts, but it'll be over
I
soon.
know.
Like dust.
Oh my god. I'm so glad this is over.
There's another season.
But don't worry. Watson can see through fog.
He does throw up some fog real quick so no one can watch him pee, and then he disperses it.
Can I do a reconstruct the scene, please?
Oh no!
Yeah, so it
was
looks
me.
like-
I peed on it.
Looks like Droshar has cut his way out.
No, I mean of the
Yeah.
room. It lets
The
me
worm
know
has
like
spent-
what's been going on for the last
The
24
last
hours.
24 hours, the worm has spent working on its magical ritual to try to connect and unleash all of the final blades.
Why does it want to do this? What was to gain by unleashing these gray deaths to just kill so many people? Why was it so obsessed with Galt?
Immortality.
Do you think
And
it's being
total
fueled
domination.
by all this death, or do you think it just hates this country?
I think it's an evil god.
Is it a god?
It said it was.
Not
I've never heard of
anymore.
it.
Well,
It's
my
not a-
god makes it a point to kill those that are not, but think they are.
It's not a god anymore, that's for sure.
Mhm.
Speaking of, I probably have some communing to do at some point about all of that.
All right, then I'm going to look for treasure. I'm going to start searching these things over here.
So you start checking at the shrines of the 3 gods. Watson, while you're pissing or, aerosolizing,
Spurting.
Okay.
Just give me a minute. Might take a little bit.
so you're looking around the room trying to find something to distract yourself. And you notice the room you're standing in with the body of the worm. Several large tables are standing against the walls of the room, and you can actually see something kind of unique underneath these tables, some sort of like a bench level, almost shelf underneath the tables. You see several flat sheets of sharpened metal. Each of them almost as big as the tables.
Whoa.
Guillotine blades.
Oh, right.
Is this
That's the
working?
tables over there?
Yeah,
Under
it's the room
okay.
where the worm was when you killed it,
Yeah.
over on the
South side.
south side of the room.
And so obviously they're not like intrinsically magical.
You could look at them a little more and find out. You're not, if you're detecting magic,
Right.
they aren't. But if you're detecting magic and looking around the room, you do see that there's all sorts of components in here and notes. sort of bits of information scrawled on chalk in the wall and parchments on the table with things written on them.
I'm probably not smart enough to know what all this says, but...
Can I do an occult check?
Oh, actually over there looting the shrines.
Oh, that's right. Are these
Val-
shrines, are these sarcophagi or?
Those are shrines
just-
to the
okay.
3 gods I mentioned in the last episode.
Yeah, I didn't know if these are things I could open though, or like.
no, they're just
okay, cool.
shrines. And they're old as shit.
Okay.
But yeah,
Val will come look around with Watson.
do you know
Watson,
to come
what's in here?
I don't know, there's some blades, there's
Final blades?
some writing, some components of some sort.
Can I do occult or
Sure. Go ahead.
is it
roll.
what type of thing? Like, what does this all look like?
You go ahead and roll occult. You said that.
Okie
Let's
dokie.
try that.
I don't know what my occult minus is.
That's some terrible math.
39.
You see that this is materials, 25,000 gold worth of rare oils, onyx gems, reagents set up here, along with some notes on. Now, they're missing notes, but a lot of notes on the creation of final blades. How long are you willing to spend kind of looking through this and analyzing it?
I mean, that combat went really fast. So I would say I'm happy to spend like a couple hours in here if we need to.
While you're looking through that, what's everyone else get up to for a couple hours? Joe, are you being like a couple hours with the thorough looking through the room or?
I'm going over it. Droz likes to gather knowledge like that hasn't stopped. So he's over there looking at these shrines and gathering whatever he can gather.
Yeah, I think Fox is helping Droke.
So, is the like oppression of the will of the conscience sort of still there?
Gone.
So Watson's gonna go like sit in a corner and try and commune with the spirits. Then
Okay.
Cool. You're able to find some. It's just sort of people coming back. I mentioned all of you sort of wrap up what you're doing while Val is still sort of fervently in these notes and materials.
Yeah, I think so.
Mm-hmm.
What would you do as you wrap that up and see Val over in the room just working at
if
that?
she's doing occult checks, I'm going over there to help.
Yeah.
doesn't look like there's much over there, Val.
It's all about how to make final blades.
There are some things missing.
Val and Dro, you two think you are understanding more about how final blades work as you research through this. And if you're willing to stay here, maybe even through the night, or at least the next several hours, you think you could figure out how to destroy them.
Cool.
I would say there's no reason not to stay down here. If the oppression's gone, the worm's dead, we might even benefit from staying down here to make sure that nothing comes back.
Yeah, I think so too. And although I would say the only thing we need to make sure of is that Kenzen hasn't reawoken as some sort of worm, that the plan worked, but
Well, and the city of Haviland's been destroyed.
it's so far away. Like you've
We
told
don't
us there's
know
nothing
those
we can
people.
do about that.
Yeah. I didn't tell you there's nothing you can do about it. I just told you it's very far away. But it's definitely been a few hours now.
So I would like to stay and figure out how these work, how
Yeah.
to stop them.
I think
Watson.
we've come to the agreement that the best thing we can do is try to destroy the other final blades.
Fox and Watson, what do
Yeah.
you two do?
I'm very old, but I suppose we can try this.
If you need to take a nap, we've got this.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, I think Fox is just aiding. Also, he wants to destroy these things too.
I mean, Watson would start patching people up as they need.
The only thing I need healing from is your acid rain.
Well,
So
I helped.
the two of you work. And I like to mention that there's sort of like almost some visual callbacks. The last time the two of you were awake late together and working was sort of like when you were keeping watch, when the two of you had the conversation, realizing perhaps how at odds you might have been or might have found yourself. But every time you start putting pieces together, I sort of imagine it's like the Wire scene, like, fuck, motherfucker.
Motherfucker.
But like each of you just starting to piece together, realizing it definitely took the worm to make these blades. And you feel like without a worm, making another one is beyond anything the two of you could imagine. But you begin to piece together a ritual. It would take 4 people to blunt a final blade. A primary ritualist who must be legendary in either occultism or religion. And then secondary members of the ritual using arcana, crafting, and the society. And then either occultism or religion, whichever one isn't used in the primary.
Because we're doing mechanics to do this, did we level up after killing that monster?
You did.
All right.
Oh,
But don't worry about that yet.
I'm
The
worried
ritual
about
would
it right
take a
now.
day to cast. Needs 10,000 gold worth of powdered mithril and rare grave dirts. Anointing the final blade with powdered mithril and grave dirt, speaking softly and carefully to the souls trapped within, you think you can create a pathway connecting the blades themselves and the boneyard, letting them pass gracefully out of this life and onto the next.
Interesting. They're like living beings.
With this level up, Val would become legendary in religion.
And I would become legendary in occult.
And you know that, like, there's not a lot of 18th level fuckers just running around Galarian.
Right.
You're probably 2 of the only people in Galt that could lead rituals like this.
It'd be 19th at this point.
Sorry, 19th. 2 of the, like,
Yeah.
2 of the only people in Galt who could lead rituals like this. And there's still a gray death just running rampant across the countryside.
She would maybe even look at Dro and be like, what do you think? Are you ready to kill death again?
Can't wait. I have a few things to do first, but I'm game.
So I think we'll fade out there.
And as we fade back up, distant voices can be heard approaching a door in a dark room. As the voices get closer, the door bursts open and a woman is removing her coat and gloves and tossing them onto a halfling that's barely able to keep up.
I don't really care, Vith. Just get it done.
Yes, my lady. And if he continues to resist, we may need to call upon some assistance.
Blackjack? That old fool hasn't been heard from in decades. No, he will complete the assignment or he will face the consequences. Simple. Now go away, please.
Yes, my lady.
The halfling bows his head and turns to leave, but stops just at the door.
Would you like me to get a fire going, my lady? It's supposed to be a cold night.
The woman sits at her desk chair and starts to rub her eyes. You can tell she's got a headache from the halfling's voice.
I just want you to leave. Now get the fuck out of here.
The halfling quickly closes the door,
Sorry.
leaving the room dark again. A moment passes before the woman freezes in her chair. A quick glance to the pitch black corner on the other side of the room. She reaches inside a small drawer and her eyes widen, realizing it's empty. Fire isn't such a bad idea, Callie. The sound of a longsword unsheathing can be heard behind her chair, followed by small flames dancing down a black blade, extinguishing at the tip just inches in front of her face.
I really fucking hate when you call me that.
Yes, but I am feeling a bit antagonistic at the moment. The dark figure steps around the side of the chair, keeping the tip of the blade close to the woman's face as sweat begins to bead.
One scream, and at least 10 people rush this room to kill you, Trisharis. I understand you are angry, but you do not have to be suicidal.
You know, you taught me very well, Callie. So well, in fact, that I am happy to tell you there is no one else. They're all dead, and now you and I are the only ones left. As for my anger, you have no idea. But you will, right after you explain this. And Drosharis tosses an ornate gray mask on the desk.
You always were my very best agent, Knight's Wrath. But you were too naive to stay alive in this game. Too blind to see a bigger picture. I was setting us up for the future, and Valentine was in the way. You really did turn out to be a disappointment.
I saw you at the party. I didn't want to believe it was you at first, but finding your mask forced me to realize your hand in all of this. It was the eyes that gave you away. You always really had lovely eyes, Callie.
Well, what do you wait?
The sound of flames whirled around the room as the sword swiftly strikes the woman right at the neck, taking off her head and the back of her chair as her body slumps to the floor. Mr. Vith, could you come in now, please? The halfling opens the door and steps into the room with a sly smile, holding up a lantern to see.
All taken care of then, Your Grace?
Yes, thank you. Could you please get the carriage ready while I clean up a bit? It's time to go find her and finish the rest. And hope she's in a good mood.
Okay, and we fade up on Valentine. And she is on a grassy hillside in what looks to be kind of the charred remains of a rather large building. There's parts of stone walls still standing and pillars, and it's looking out over the skyline, if you will, of Litron, so a little ways outside of the city. And as she walks through the wreckage, she comes to what looks to have once been like a grand entryway, standing among, she's standing there with like stone pillars and maybe some steps that are still there. But most of it is open air, like it's totally destroyed and burned. And she kneels down on the ground with a flower in her hand and lays it at the base of one of the stone pillars that looks to be like where something would open up into this building. And she hesitates for a moment, and then she places a glossy black feather on the ground next to the flower and draws a spiral in the dirt on the ground.
How touching. I never took you for the sentimental type.
And Val snaps up and immediately draws the pistol and the dagger, because it's not often that somebody sneaks up on Val without her even knowing that they're coming. And as she's looking in front of her, she sees this tall woman in a dark cloak. She looks like she's probably in her mid-30s, and she's staring at Val with these intense eyes, but what Val first notices is a red streak running through her dark hair and 2 dual sawtooth sabers displayed openly on her back. She's not even trying to hide them. And Valentine kind of shudders, she startles a little bit.
Valentine de Castel, or shall I say Monte? You've been causing quite a stir lately, haven't you? Do you know who I am?
And Val is clearly surprised and a little shook, but she still answers. And she says, Jacqueline, the blood mistress of the Red Mantis High Killers. Though to be fair, I always thought you were more of a legend.
Good. At least Monte taught you some actual history. I'll make myself clear, Valentine. Your mentor was an apostate of our order. We take the job, we take the coin, and we do not concern ourselves with petty political disagreements. Monte believed that he could use the skills of those who walk in blood to tip the scales and curb what he viewed to be unjust power. He was a fool who got distracted by the squabbling of one insignificant little country. He left our order and we let him be. But don't think I haven't kept my eye on his little pet projects. You've never posed much of a concern to us, but when you start picking fights with the demigods, well, I'm bound to take notice.
And Val has her pistol still directed at Jacqueline, but she knows that if it came to her needing it, it wouldn't matter anyway. But still, she cocks an eyebrow and she says, in my defense, the demigods started it.
You've embarked on quite a game with the gods. You pretend to worship Callistria, while truly worshipping our god Chekek. And yet, are you sure that chain around your neck should not actually become a spiral? Who are you, Valentine? A mantis or a spider? A use or a threat?
And Valentine is just quiet and waiting and looking around and trying to take in everything she can about what might happen next.
You've become quite powerful. You can deduce weakness among your enemies in a way others cannot. Consider this my first notice, Valentine. I will be in touch. But there is something you need to attend to first.
And Valentine glances over Jacqueline's shoulder just then, just in time to see a dark carriage pull up in the distance. and by the time she looks back, Jacqueline is gone. Valentine looks once more kind of back at the remains of her old home where she grew up and was raised and learned everything that she learned. And by the time she turns back around, she knows who will be there already.
Good afternoon, Lady Valentine. Lord Orwin requests a moment to speak with you.
Val rolls her eyes so far into the back of her head and starts walking towards the carriage and opens the door. Lord Orwin.
Good afternoon, Lady Valentine.
Blackout.
Ooh. We can fade up on the Mind Spin Mountains.
Really quick, before we do that, I would just like to say Trenton gets a retroactive patch
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
that incredible voice
Kingmaker
acting.
patch.
Kingmaker patch.
Well done.
No, I
10 of
think-
10, buddy.
I think Trenton's going to get one of the very last gray death patches. That's the
Yes.
Darth Maul over.
I just love silly voices.
We just sprung those both on him
Yeah.
right now.
He was supposed to be Vith originally.
I do love Jared, the continuity of Jared being Vith. I do love that.
Jared, you're going to be
Epilogue.
Vith serving
now.
different
Oh, yeah.
people in every
Yeah.
game we ever play from now on.
Deal.
Vith is a shady assassin halfling, so have fun with that.
Cool.
So
All right, continue.
we fade up on what you would think would be a cold, snowy region deep in the Mind Spin Mountains, but it's actually very calm, spring-like, and a obviously very old Watson Himmelgale is caning his way with his staff up through a tiny little village. And he walks through the center of town and sort of nods to people. And you even catch some eyes sort of like glancing at him like, no way. No way he's here right now. And as he walks through, he manages to find a tiny little graveyard. And there's a little bench. He just sits down. Maybe a little sprite kind of hops up on his knee, sits down, looks up at him. Hello, Father. I'm sorry I never got to come before this. And I'm sorry we left on such terrible conditions, but I can tell you I have lived a long life. So much good and so much bad. But I think you would be proud of me. At least I hope so. You know, it was hard when Mom died. When I was so angry at you. But you were right. There is a lot of bad things in the world. But I was also right. It's not all bad, Dad. So much good. There is so much good here. So allow me to start at the beginning, after I left. Let's see, that was back in 4606. I was about...
Bro, I'm choked up. That was fucking awesome.
That was good. And then camera fades up again. And Fox is standing on a second floor balcony overlooking the sea. In a really nice, beautiful home. He watches the waves in silence as the sun dips below the horizon. He's lost in thought. His mind travels through the events of the last weeks in Latron. Flashes of faces and events that he has a hard time remembering after coming face to face with the Conqueror Worm. His muscles tense as he relives the final battle in his mind and the success of vanquishing the worm and sees the faces of his companions. He stares wordlessly at the tide as the tide begins to rise and the sky grows darker. And from behind him, a voice just says, "You okay?" It's a feminine voice. And joining him on the balcony is a familiar auburn-haired woman, Nicoletta de Mercy.
Ooh.
It's getting dark. Valen, without looking back, replies, "Yes, I'm fine, just thinking." Puts on a small smile and turns to her. She says, "Okay. Just let me know when you come back inside. Someone wants to say goodnight." Nicoletta disappears back into the house. Fox stands there contemplating for a little bit longer and then makes his way into the house weaving down the main hallway of the upstairs, pulls open the door to a small bedroom. He smiles widely as he sees Nicoletta gently tucking into bed, a blue-skinned baby girl.
Shut up.
Protruding from her tiny head. Fox smiles. His smile grows warm. He leans down, gives the little one a kiss, and rustles her hair. He nuzzles her affectionately as her tiny eyes close in peaceful slumber. Then Fox says goodnight, walks upstairs to his room, and puts his halberd in a chest, locks it, and walks back out onto the balcony, overlooking the sea, quietly contemplating.
Jared's the dad in real life and in the game?
Victor didn't know he had a Hawkeye family, did you?
I like that he puts it away in the gun safe. He's like,
He's like, all right. Sure she doesn't get her hands on this.
Well, you're retiring,
Oh my
right?
God.
Is that the idea? You're retired?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Let's talk about Galt.
What a
In the
piece of shit.
days that follow, word spreads. The gardeners have fallen.
Yeah, they
New
did.
factions begin to arise across the country. The unmaskers working to find what's left of the gardeners and bring them to justice. Conversations among chaotic courts and chambers. Camilla Dranak at the head of all of it, attempting to keep some level of civility and order in the countryside. Firebrands, revolutionaries from inside of and outside of Galt work everywhere they can to bring together the final blades, to take the ritual taught to them. It's been shared through occult circles and traditions, to bring an end to these. There still are some that are unaccounted for. Razor Jenny, the guillotine that once sat at the center of Torvin Academy in the Galton city of Edme, it's been missing. No one knows where it is, but rumors spread that a occult society holds seances somewhere deep below the city, attempting to talk to the spirits trapped inside of the blade. Margus the Chopper. Well, eyewitnesses in Isarn swear they saw a single hooded figure in a blacksmith's apron load it aboard a wagon and drive it out the eastern city gates. The guillotine's been gone for weeks now, but now a vigilante calling himself House Setter's Vengeance stalks the outskirts of the city. And the folks in town say his butcher's blade is made from a fragment of a final blade, as he stalks down any and all he believes to have once worn the gray masks.
Who the hell is that?
There's still more that are left undone. And you realize that this is all coming from a man sitting in a bar. You know, a lot of people I've heard contemplate and talk. All sorts of rumors about who it was, the figures who took down and toppled the monastery of the gardeners. There are some who say they were agents from outside. Others, I've heard tell, wax poetic about the different entities and groups here within Galt that it could have been. It's probably one of the most popular pastimes I've come across in my weeks here in Galt, speculating on who they may be. Some claim to have even met those adventurers in person. Who's to say what they really are, though? Man slaps down a gold coin on the bar, way overpaying for his beer. Stands up, grabs this musical instrument that had been playing itself and slings it over his shoulder. Tips his hat, a large feather in it, to the barkeep. As you hear someone from the door call to him, "It's time to go.
Oh my God.
We've got work to do." The bard strolls out into the road and climbs into a wagon, a part of a small group, and sits down next to Nelibet.
We're getting a Tulip Nelibet team up at the end.
Did you find out anything new? Well, rumors of Carmine Nell, a final blade, they're hard to come by. But last I heard, someone heard and saw something of it just outside of Tregan. And the sounds of it, a night hag has gotten her hands on it. If we're to rescue all the souls of your fellow worshippers of Pharasma trapped inside that blade, we better get there soon. And from the back of the wagon, when are we going to get something for dinner?
Yeah.
Let's go,
Skeleton lives!
Tune in next season.
Thanks, everybody.
The end, everybody!
Good job.
The Live to Die podcast is a production of Live to Die Gaming. Follow us on social media at Live to Die Pod. Leave a review and tune in next week for more. If you like the amazing background audio and music, all that credit goes to Syrinscape. Make sure you check them out at Syrinscape.com.